Hello everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Food Technology Study Program from the Department of Food Science and Technology, Faculty of Agricultural Engineering and Technology, ITP University. My name is Rati Dewanti Haryadi. I am a professor in food microbiology at ITP University, and we are going to discuss our class ITP 322 Food Safety and Sanitation. We will be discussing our first lecture on the introduction to food safety and sanitation. The topics that will be covered today is the food safety definition, foodborne diseases, foodborne disease burden, foodborne disease outbreaks in Indonesia and US, the economic cost of food safety. And after that, we are going to discuss about sanitation, principle of food sanitation, and the role of food sanitation in food safety management. After you complete this lecture, you are expected to be able to define food safety and food sanitation, describes foodborne disease burden, describe the economic burden in food safety, describe principles in food sanitation, and describe food safety management at industry level. Let's begin our discussion with the definition. Food safety generally refers to handling, preparation, processing, and storage of food in a manner that will decrease the risk of anyone who consumes the food to experience illnesses and intoxication. In Indonesia, food safety is also defined by the Food Law number 18/2012, which cover a wider scope. It is not only talking about biological, chemical, or physical hazard, but also anything related to faith and culture that will make people feel safe to consume it. These are the three universal hazards in food safety. The first one is a chemical hazard. Chemical hazard will cover anything from natural toxicant in plants or mushroom until excess use of food additives, as well as the use of illegal chemicals as an additive. The second hazard is a microbiological or biological hazard that will cover viruses, bacteria, protozoa, parasite, and toxigenic mold. Physical hazards covers glass, woods, stones, and metal, and part of insect that may accidentally be included in food. Food safety problems can cause illness and cost lives. WHO in 2015 estimated that every year 600 million of people got ill because of contaminated foods. That means 1 out of 10 people. These foodborne diseases has also caused 420,000 deaths every year, and 40% of it happen in children under the age of 5. They also calculated the burden as 33 million healthy life years lost because of earlier death and also chronic illnesses. What about in Indonesia? In Indonesia, the outbreaks report has not been very comprehensive, but out of that limited data, we can see that most of the foodborne disease outbreaks was due to microbiological problems, and then followed by chemical problems. When it comes to the type of foods that most of the illnesses or outbreaks was due to food from home, and the second rank is food from industry and food service that contribute for 28 and 27% respectively. This is the data from the US that shows slightly different in terms of the source of outbreaks. In the US, food from retail has caused the most outbreaks, followed by food from home, and then food industry accounted for about 5% of the outbreaks. Pertaining the etiology, in the US, most of the outbreaks was due to noroviruses, accounted for 49%, followed by bacteria, 40%, and then chemicals, 6%, and then parasite, 1%. Factors contributing to foodborne disease outbreaks in the US has been identified as improper holding temperatures, accounted for the most outbreaks, followed by poor personal hygiene, and then contaminated equipment, inadequate cooking, and food from unsafe sources. The other way to express food safety problem is to calculate the economic cost or burden. The economic burden due to food safety arise from the cost for outbreak investigation, medical costs for those who got ill, loss in productivity, and also loss in trade. There are several studies that have reported the economic burden of foodborne illnesses in the US, in Sweden, as well as in Indonesia. One of the components for calculating the economic burden of food safety is food rejection. This diagram shows the food rejected from Indonesia by Australia, Japan, United States, and European Union. As you can see here, the main reason why our food is rejected is poor hygiene, followed by bacteria, fat drug residues, use of inappropriate additives in foods and feeds, pesticide residues, heavy metals, and mycotoxins. Here are some major food safety issues that has affected health as well as trade. In 2011, E. coli 0104H4 in fenugreek sprout has caused 4,000 people got ill and 50 of them died. Between 2017 and 2018, Listeria monocytogenes in the Polony sausage has caused 1,000 people got ill and 200 deaths in South Africa. Enoki mushrooms imported from South Korea has caused many food recall in US, Australia, as well as Indonesia, and also caused 30 cases in the US with 2 deaths. You probably still remember the case of addition of melamine in infant powder formula that caused death and also criminal charges. We are going to see more and more issues in international trade. Right now, you probably have heard about MCPD ester in palm oil, and then also mackerel that may contain anisakis worms in Indonesia. Within the country, we know that several of the food safety issues raised from the fact that some raw materials has a high load of microorganisms or pathogenic microorganisms due to poor wastewater management. Secondly, mycotoxin in several commodities usually arise because of poor post-harvest handling, inadequate sanitation practices because of ignorance or carelessness, and use of adulterants or illegal chemicals in food or use of additives in an excessive amount. Okay, now we would like to move to food sanitation. So food sanitation is generally the promotion of hygiene and prevention of diseases by maintaining sanitary conditions of foods, food handlers, food processing facilities, and equipment. So in a sense, food sanitation is protecting food from contamination. And with this in mind, all functions and operation in food industry must be included in sanitation program. The principles in food sanitation consist of cleaning, and disinfection or sanitation. Cleaning is removal of soil, remaining food, or microorganisms from equipment or facility such that they do not become the source of contamination. On the other hand, disinfection or sanitation is the process of killing microorganisms such that they do not have the opportunity to survive or form spores and contaminate foods. In industry, food safety is managed by the following system. It usually started with the Good Manufacturing Practices or GMP, followed by Sanitation Standard Operating Procedures or SSOP, and then Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point or HACCP. The following slides will describe each of these systems. GMP or Good Manufacturing Practices is the foundation in food safety management which define requirements for building and location for the food production, design, construction, and sanitation of building, as well as equipment for the food productions, sanitation program for the employees, and process control. SSOP or Sanitation Standard Operating Procedures are written procedures for sanitation processes applied in a food industry. The US FDA has recommended 6 key areas in which SSOP are applied. First is the assurance for water safety, condition and cleanness of food contact surfaces, prevention of adulteration, prevention of cross-contamination, sanitation facility, employees' health, labeling of toxic compounds, and assurance procedures for pest control. GMP and SSOP is a prerequisite for the implementation of a more advanced food safety management such as HACCP or Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. There are 7 principles of HACCP. First one is hazard analysis, and then determination of CCP or critical control points, determination of critical limit, determination of monitoring system, determination of corrective actions, verification system, and then a documentation system. So, what will we study throughout the semester? You will be receiving materials on hazards, soils, biofilms, water pollutants, and then cleaning, sanitizing, cleaners and sanitizers, indicators, sanitary design, process control, personal hygiene, air sanitation, and pest control, as well as water treatment and wastewater treatment and SSOP. And that's gonna build up your knowledge in food safety and sanitation, which further can be applied for you in terms of food safety management based on GMP, SSOP, and HACCP to achieve food safety objectives. Well, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you study more on the materials available at the Learning Management System, and see you next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.